Unchained fam, what's going on, man? I'm glad everybody's tuning back in. Welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday. This is number 5. My very deep desire and passion is to help people and to teach and to coach. So it's tough when you make videos for them to be practical for an individual. It's generally just like, here's this bit of knowledge, and if you like it, like, run with it. But very seldomly do you walk away and say, oh, I can do this. And so what I want to go over today, hopefully you can use and take away from it, okay, at least I have something, I have somewhere to start. So for some of you guys, you might not even know how to count macronutrients. You might not know what macronutrients are. That's okay. Follow along, and at the end of it, if you have nothing else, you at least have an amount of protein, fat, and carbs that you should be ingesting, a general idea of how many calories you should be ingesting, and then what my goal for this video is after you get to that point and you have all these questions, great. I want you guys to reach out with any questions about how many calories you're supposed to take in, how many grams of protein, fat, and carb, based off of what you've done in the past. Any questions that you have, I want this to be a gateway for you guys to have those questions and open this up to you to ask. It's a safe place for you to ask and for me to do my best to help you. So if I can help in any way, please. I'm making this video so that I can walk you step by step, and then at the end, if you're golden with that as a starting point, good, go with it. If you have a bunch of questions, that's also good. Ask them. I'm here to help. So we're going to call this general fueling. So we want to think of ourselves as athletes. You are all athletes, believe it or not. So as an athlete, you need to be concerned with how you fuel yourself in order to perform, move, and function at your highest level. So where do you start? How many calories should you be taking in? How many grams of protein? I want to go step by step on what I do in general with someone who comes to me and has these questions, okay? So if you can, get a piece of paper and a pen. I'd love for you to follow along with me and kind of plug in where I have this fake arbitrary person's body weight or their variables. I want you to plug in your body weight and go right along with me until you come to the bottom and have your own numbers, okay? So for the sake of simplicity and making this making my math easy, we're going to take an arbitrary person of 200 pounds, okay? Now, step number 1, I want you to take your body weight. So for this person, it's going to be 200, but for you, whatever your body weight is, and you're going to multiply that by the number 12. And that's going to give us a general idea of give or take where your calories could be starting out. So for this person, their body weight is 200 pounds. We're going to multiply that by 12, and that's going to give us 2,400. Okay? That's about how many calories this person should be taking in. So for you, whatever your body weight is, multiplied by the number 12, is going to give you a figure. That's about how many calories you're going to start with. Okay? And we're going to kind of dwindle that starting amount of calories down until we've accounted for how many grams of protein, fat, and carbs you should be ingesting. Step number 2. I always like to start with protein. I think that's the most valuable, the most important thing for my athletes' nutrition. So, how much protein should they take in? This is going to be a scale. It's a continuum like everything we're going to talk about today. It's a spectrum. So, you can be higher than this or lower than this. I'm going to use the variable 1 gram per pound that someone weighs. You can be as low as 0.6 or 0.7, and you can be as high as 1.2, 1.3. Some people can get up, upwards of 2. But for sake of simplicity purposes, the range that I want you to think about is 0.7 to 1.2. And for you specifically, let's just do the number 1 to keep our math simple. So to figure out what your protein intake should be, 1 gram for every pound of body weight you weigh. So it's very simple. 200-pound man that we're using in our example, multiplied by 1 gives us 200. So now we know 200 grams of protein. Well, how many calories is that? If you multiply by 4, this is just a quick refresher if you don't understand macronutrients at all, if you don't have a foundation as to how many calories each gram of protein, fat, and carb is worth, that's something that you can ask me off to the side. You can message me and we'll address that. But for most people who understand it, this is just a review for you. For every gram of protein is going to be 4 calories. For every gram of carbohydrates, also 4 calories. And for every gram of fat, it's going to be 9 calories. So we take this value, body weight multiplied by 1 gram per pound gives us 200. That's how many grams of protein we want. But how many calories is that? We multiply by 4 because we know that every gram of protein is 4 calories. So 200 multiplied by 4 gives us 800. For you, this is whatever your body weight is. If you weigh 130 pounds, you would do 130 multiplied by 4. And that number that you get would be how many calories from protein you're going to be intaking. Step number 3, we're going to subtract the figure that we got from number 2, which was 800. We're going to subtract that from what we got in number 1. So if you could think back, for this person, they weighed 200 pounds. We multiplied by the variable 12. It gave us 2,400. So we're going to do 2,400 total calories, subtract away the calories from protein, 800, and that's going to leave us 1,600 calories, which is what we're going to use to distribute between carbohydrates and fat. Okay, step 4, fat intake. Where should my fat intake be? Let's just start with 0.3 grams per pound. You could be above this. I really wouldn't recommend being below this unless it's for contest prep and only for about 4 weeks or so. But that's, again, another discussion. For today's purposes, take your body weight, multiply that by 0.3. 0.3 grams for every pound that you weigh. So for our example, this person that we're talking about weighs 200 pounds. We're going to multiply their body weight times 0.3. So you would fill in your body weight right here and multiply your body weight times 0.3. And that's going to give you a figure. And that figure is how many grams of fat you need per day. So 200 times 0.3 gives us 60. So we know this person should be taking in roughly 60 grams of fat per day. But how many calories is that? Well, we go up here to our little cheat sheet and we see that for every gram of fat is 9 calories. So we know that we take our 60 grams of fat and we multiply that by 9. So whatever you get when you take your body weight and you multiply it by 0.3, whatever you get there, you're going to multiply that by 9. And for this person, that gives us 540 calories. So we know that they're going to be ingesting 540 of their 2,400 calories coming from fat. So step number 5, we subtract what we got from number 4 from the figure from number 3. So we take 1,600 calories, which is what we had left over, and we're going to subtract 540 from that. So 1,600 calories subtracted by 540, which is the calories that we're ingesting from fat, and it's going to leave us with whatever this number is. That is what's left over for distribution for your carbohydrate intake. So for this individual, 1,060 is how many calories are left over. So very last step, you're going to take your carb intake from number 5, which we know is 1,060, and we need to divide that by 4 in order to understand, in order to figure out how many grams of carbohydrates. So 1,060 calories coming from carbohydrates divided by 4 calories per gram gives us 265. So what are we left with? We know that this individual, in general, would be pretty solid, sitting at 200 grams of protein, 265 grams of carbohydrates, and 60 grams of fat. Now there's 2 things that we do need to consider. First thing that we need to consider is, what are this person's goals? Are they trying to add muscle tissue and get bigger? Are they trying to maintain the physique that they have? Or are they trying to reduce their body fat? So, first thing we need to consider is, based off of these numbers, how is your body adjusting? So, if you're not seeing the results you need to be, whether it be getting bigger or getting leaner or maintaining, then we need to adjust. How you go about doing that? That's a long discussion. So those are the type of questions that I would love for you guys to ask. If you're not sure where to go from once you get these numbers, great questions to ask, and I will answer every single person that asks the question. The other thing we need to consider is, well, why do you have this person on what would be a high percentage of their calories coming from carbohydrates, essentially like 40%. Why do you have them have so many carbohydrates, and why is their fat so low? This is going to be preference, and it's also going to be the other thing that we need to consider is how does this person react. So if it's an endurance athlete, you could argue that this person's fat could be a lot higher and their carbohydrates could be a lot lower. If they're a power athlete, this could even go up just a touch, and this could maybe go down a touch. The individual needs to be considered when you're applying these concepts. Again, these are concepts. This isn't the blanket way for every single person's nutrition to be. If it was, we would just clap our hands and be done, and everybody would have the results. They'd have the nutrition they needed to be successful. So those are the two things we need to consider. What are the person's goals, and then also what type of athlete are they, and is there room to adjust and increase their fat and decrease their carbohydrates based off the type of athlete or what they respond best to. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys, that you could kind of go through with me and plug in your body weight and figure out at least a rough estimate of a good starting point for you. If this was too confusing and you don't even understand this at all, there's some other videos or some other things that we would need to discuss to kind of get you up to speed. But for most of you, this should be something that gives you a starting point. So if that starting point gets you nothing else other than these numbers, it's a great place to start, and it's a great place to start asking questions. You can ask me. If there's other educated people that are willing to help, ask them. Say, hey, I have these numbers. What do you think about them? Start out with yourself. And try 2 weeks on these numbers, ingesting these amount of macronutrients, and see what type of results you get. Are you happy with them? Is it fueling your body correctly? And then what do you need to change? Have something so that when you ask a professional, you ask me and say, hey, where should I go from here? At least you've got your feet wet and you have a starting point. So that's my goal, is to teach and to help and to hopefully have a positive impact on you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Follow our social media. It's all Unchained Potential. Mitch is all of his social media is going to be Unchained Physio, and the new website is www.unchainedpotential.net. If you guys have any questions, please, I made this video specifically so it sparks questions for you guys to ask me. I'd love to help. Comment, like this if you want to see more. Share it if it was helpful. And as always, stay unchained.